Have you ever looked up at night and seen a sudden, brilliant flash of light moving across the stars? In the late 90s, astronomers started spotting these strange bursts. They were called Iridium flares, sunlight bouncing off the antennas of a brand new satellite network. But down on Earth, those beautiful flashes were the physical footprint of one of the most expensive market miscalculations in history. The concept was born in 1987. A team of Motorola engineers mapped out a global personal satellite communication system. To cover the entire planet, their math showed they would need exactly 77 active satellites in orbit. So they named the project Iridium, after the chemical element with the atomic number 77. Building a wireless network in space required an immense mobilization of capital. By the late 1990s, the company had burned through $5 billion, relying on a fleet of rockets launching from the United States, Russia, and China to muscle the constellation into orbit. The milestone finally arrived on November 1, 1998. The network officially opened for commercial service, an event celebrated when Vice President Al Gore used the system to make the first ceremonial phone call. The problem was the hardware. Iridium was trying to sell a device weighing a full pound and costing $3,000 to a public that was already adopting smaller, cheaper, everyday cell phones. Attempting to build a space-based network for everyday consumers proved fatal. The company failed to attract enough subscribers to service its massive debt, and by 1999, less than a year after that ceremonial first call, Iridium filed for bankruptcy. The situation was so dire that by late 2000, Motorola announced plans to simply deorbit the entire $5 billion constellation, letting all those satellites burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. But a buyer of last resort stepped in. The U.S. Department of Defense realized the strategic value of a network that worked everywhere, so they handed Iridium a $72 million contract to provide unlimited airtime for 20,000 government users. That government lifeline caught the attention of private investors. A newly formed group purchased all the assets out of bankruptcy court for a mere $25 million. With the stroke of a judge's pen, over $4 billion in debt simply vanished. Shedding that crushing financial weight and armed with a massive enterprise anchor tenant, the reborn company realized they didn't need to chase the average consumer. They could rebuild their entire business model around serving as a highly specialized utility for the people who truly needed it. That utility operates on a foundational layer of 66 active satellites, along with a few in-orbit spares, flying in low Earth orbit. Unlike traditional communication satellites that sit high above the equator, these fly in polar orbits, roughly 485 miles up. Because they cross directly over the top and bottom of the globe, they provide complete coverage, including extreme poles where traditional signals fail entirely. This diagram illustrates the core technological differentiator, K-band inter-satellite crosslinks. Instead of acting as mirrors bouncing signals straight back down to local cell towers, these satellites talk directly to each other in space. If you make a call from the middle of the Pacific Ocean, your signal travels up to the nearest satellite, hops horizontally across the orbital mesh network at 17,000 miles per hour, and only drops back down when it reaches a connected ground station on land. Because the satellites are moving so fast, completing a full orbit every 100 minutes, any single satellite is only visible to a user for about 7 minutes. To keep a call alive, the network performs rapid, automatic signal handoffs from one satellite to the next as they sweep past the horizon. This mesh network architecture removes the need for a dense, expensive web of local ground stations. By keeping the routing logic in orbit, it creates a completely uninterrupted global communications web. To tap into that web, users rely on a specific hardware ecosystem. It starts with ruggedized handsets like the extreme push-to-talk models, designed specifically for first responders and crews working far off the grid. For users who want to use their own devices, there are localized connectivity hubs like the Iridium Go hotspot. These allow you to pair a standard smartphone or tablet to the satellite network from deep inside a remote jungle or out on the open sea. But much of the network's traffic doesn't involve human voices at all. It relies on standalone transceivers and short-burst data modems, small, low-power devices built to log data for the Internet of Things. You'll find these modems embedded directly into critical safety equipment, like remote tsunami warning buoys bobble in the ocean, pinging tiny packets of data back to base stations at regular intervals. At the higher end, broadband hardware systems running the Iridium Certus platform provide high-speed voice and data capabilities to commercial aviation and massive maritime shipping vessels navigating global trade routes. They've also expanded into specialized infrastructure with a service called Satellite Time and Location. This provides highly secure timing and navigation data to protect digital systems like data centers against vulnerabilities in standard GPS. Looking at this diverse product stack, it becomes clear that Iridium evolved from a failed consumer phone manufacturer into the critical hardware backbone for industries operating far beyond the reach of traditional cell towers. Today, Iridium enjoys a near monopoly on truly global, low-Earth orbit voice and data services. This competitive moat is incredibly difficult for newer entrants to cross. Not only do rivals have to replicate a deeply entrenched mesh infrastructure in space, but they also have to acquire stringent safety certifications, like the authorization to provide global maritime distress services. Now, the company is looking to expand its reach even further with Project Stardust. Scheduled for launch in 2026, this initiative bypasses proprietary hardware entirely to deliver direct-to-device 5G messaging straight to standard consumer smartphones. It is a remarkable journey from a spectacular commercial failure to a vertically integrated space powerhouse. It proves that while an initial business plan might fail the market test, revolutionary engineering will ultimately find its indispensable purpose.